Good morning, everyone. We are here this morning with Sip with Stacy, and I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing our state president from Texas, Claudia Gayton. Claudia, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure for me. Thank you, Miss Stacy.
Oh, you are so very welcome. So I always like to start out asking this very special question. When did you get into real estate, Claudia?
Well, I started in 2003. This May will be my 20th anniversary as a licensed realtor.
Oh, congratulations, 20
Thank you.
years. It's a beautiful life. Tell us about that journey. Tell us about when you first started and how this business was for you, and then kind of lead us up to year 20, if you would.
Yes, I was working as an executive administrative assistant, and I wasn't getting anywhere. There wasn't any more leadership opportunities for me or advancing there at the spot I was in, and I wanted to do something different. And my beautiful sister, my older sister Anna, who was a realtor at that time, she still is, I'm sorry, in San Diego, California. She's always been a hairstylist, but she also was a realtor. And I said, that sparked my interest. I dabbled into it. I got into school, and I worked for 9 years as a so-called part-time realtor while having my full-time job. Although I will tell you that for those 9 years, I still put in 40 hours in my real estate business, because I worked from 5:30 till 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, and all day Saturday and all day Sunday, because I wanted to make my business succeed. So I was even averaging about 40 hours a week in my real estate business. So I was not a part-time agent, but when you're a dual career agent, and that's how I did it for 9 years.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, you know what? One thing about you, Claudia, that I have seen and I've watched from afar, probably, I think we first connected when you were DVP in Texas, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And you are a doer and you are a hard worker. And that just shows dual jobs at the same time. Wow.
Yes, thank you.
So then let's talk about after that. What happened after you did those 9 years?
Well, I was afraid to quit my job because I had a comfy paycheck every 2 weeks. I had health insurance. I had a 401k. So I was afraid to quit my job. And honestly, I did like my job, okay? So I was afraid to quit, but I kept praying on it and praying on it. And all of a sudden, one year, they came to us and said they were closing our business down. And for those of us that hung on to the very, very end, we were going to get a severance package. That doesn't happen all the time when a company shuts down. Right. So I held on till the very end because I was already used to working both jobs, and I got my severance package. And to me, that was my sign that it was time for me to do my real estate full time. And by then I had already, developed myself, branded myself a little bit more. People already, I was already getting more referrals from previous clients. So it was easy. It was still scary, but it was easy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome that you had that sign and it kind of just all fell into place and you were ready and you had arrived and you were ready to take off in your real estate business career, huh?
Yes, because, when you're in a job all day long in your desk, you hear other agents, or that other things are happening around you, meetings, CE courses, networking, during the day, and you miss out on that. And you're sitting at your job and you're like, oh man, if only I wouldn't be here at work. Or you try to find ways to do it during your lunch hour, or you try to find ways to extend your lunch hour because you want to be at that realtor event. So it's hard. It was hard, but because I wanted to be full-time real estate, I was just scared.
That's awesome. That is a great story, though. It's really an evolution, and it really speaks to the person that you are, because you put in the hard work, the hard hours, and then when you were ready, you just took off, right?
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
that's fantastic. So now you're in real estate. How did you get involved with Women's Council? Let's talk about that.
You know, I heard about a networking event and I did attend, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was a fun event, you know, but I never went back to it. And quite honestly, nobody ever called me back after that. Okay. But then I like telling this story. On a hot, steamy night, I was with Jackie York and I was with Lizette Smith, who are both Women's Council members up to date. On a hot, steamy night of Zumba class, they invited me to attend and help organize one of their events. And I got really excited that they, you know, tapped me on the shoulder, invited me, thought, you know, that I would be someone good to help, because they were telling me, Claudia, you would be great. We could use your help. Please join us. We're going to organize this event. And it made me feel good. So I was like, sure, I didn't even think about it. And, you know, sure, where can I go? What do I need to do? And that's when I showed up to start helping one of the very first Women's Council events.
Oh, that is so awesome. And what year was that, Claudia?
That was in 13. It was going to be a Halloween event in 13. And then I showed up to our first meeting, our first planning meeting, and I thought I knew it all. You know, I come from the industry where I was an executive admin, so I knew how to organize all these things. But, you know, come to find out, no, I didn't. There's different styles for different, you know, events, different organizations, different causes. But, you know, that's when they told me, oh, guess what, Claudia, you need to be a member. So they hooked me right there. They got me good right there. And because of Jackie York and Lizette Smith, I am in Women's Council.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, what was your first official position in Women's Council?
Okay, so this event was for October, right?
Right.
In December, Lizette Smith, who had, you know, met during that one Zumba class and really didn't know her as well, she called me and she asked me, because she was on her way to being president. She was president-elect for the local network that year for El Paso del Norte. And she called me and she asked me if I would be her Ways and Means chair. Back then it was part of the governing board and it was a year responsibility. And I was like, okay, what is that? What do I need to do? And she says, it is your responsibility to raise funds for the network, for the chapter back then,
Right.
for the year. So I was like, wow, for a year, I need to raise funds. And she told me, don't worry, Claudia, you're never going to be alone. We're always going to be there helping you, but you do need to lead in this area. So I gladly accepted. And I started out as the Ways and Means chair. It was
Oh,
fun.
that's wonderful.
It was
That is
really
wonderful.
fun. It was
And
a lot of
then
learning from the get-go, from day one. Learn, learn, learn.
learn, and you jumped right into events and got busy planning and getting ready for the local network there. And then let's talk about your leadership climb. So where did you go after Ways and Means?
So after Ways and Means, back then I was slated. I interviewed and was slated for the treasurer position,
Okay.
and I was elected as treasurer. So I served as treasurer for a year, and that was again a learning experience. Because of Women's Council, I learned QuickBooks. You know, I have an accounting background by trade, but I didn't know QuickBooks. It was, you know, through my company where I worked, they had an accounting system, but they didn't use QuickBooks. So that's where I learned QuickBooks because of Women's Council, and now I use it in my personal business. So I learned something, I got something out of it.
That's awesome. Isn't that amazing? Just how things fall into place of what you're going to need next in your life. And it's really a foundation that just keeps building this information to take us to the next place that we're meant to really go. Right.
Mhm.
I love the story. I love the story. And so now let's talk about after that, how did you transition to go over to state?
So I was local network president here in El Paso del Norte, here in El Paso, Texas, in 2018.
Okay.
And it was a challenging year. You know, it was a lot of fun, again, continuous learning, and it was very challenging. And that taught me a lot. You know, those challenges that I had in my network taught me so much. And I was tapped on the shoulder by our governor back then, Kathy Allen, and also by the beautiful Ethel O'Dell. They asked me if they could nominate me for a district vice president position. And quite honestly, Stacy, people that know me, I'm very honest, I'm very blunt. I was surprised. I was surprised that they asked me to run for district vice president because of the challenges that I had at my network. I reached out to state for help, so they knew what was going on. And when I asked Kathy, who knew my situation, you know, why would you ask me? She says, Claudia, because of what you learned during your year as president and the way you handled your situations, you know, the different challenges you were faced with, and how graciously I saw you handle them and supersede them and have a very successful year with having a successful network. She says, that's what we need in leadership. We need the people such as yourself who has learned and who can turn around and teach those same situations and experiences to others. So I was very, very surprised. I was very, very honored. And of course, I was proud of myself at hearing that, you know, they saw me do well and they saw me try hard. And, you know, state was with me every step of the way when I was being challenged. So, you know, back then, Don Lovka helped me a lot. She was the president-elect. Sheila Moran, who was the state president when I was local network president, state was there to help me out. And I always tell everybody, we always tell everybody, they're always looking at you. They're always looking at what you do. Women's Council looks at you. Outside people look at you. Outside leaders that you don't know and might be looking at you. Someone is always taking notice and seeing what you're doing. And that's exactly what happened with me and how I moved on to the state level.
Absolutely. I would concur with that. Somebody is always watching. And so it is amazing. And people will just tap you on the shoulder to go to that next level, and these opportunities will just open. So that brings me to my next question. Who is the person that tapped Claudia Gayton on the shoulders to take that leap over to the state?
As I mentioned, Kathy Allen and Sharon Eddings,
Okay.
also a past state president, and Miss Ethel O'Dell. They are the ones that encouraged me. You know, when I doubted if I could do it, when I was doubting if I was state material, they are the three ladies that year encouraged me, called me and asked me, because of how it was back then. They both, all three of them called me and asked me if they could nominate me for a district vice president position.
Oh, that is so special that you have that network. And so members that are out there listening to Claudia talk right now, this is a safe space. This is a place to grow and expand your leadership and try new things. And we are a web of support. So if you don't know how to do something, you just raise your hand and there is someone there that knows how to do something, or a connector that will connect you with someone that knows how to do what you're looking to do or to go. If you want to be on a committee at NAR, there's always someone that knows somebody. But all you have to do is just raise your hand and ask for that help. Isn't that right, Claudia?
That's right. And as a state president for Texas, the Women's Council, if I may, I can say that the Texas has a mentorship program where we have past state presidents in that program, and you can reach out to those past state presidents for Texas and ask them to guide you and mentor you, whether you want to continue on your leadership path with Women's Council or with Texas Realtors or with National Association of Realtors, or even in your community, you know, serving on the local network board. For example, a lot of us start outside of Women's Council, maybe with a PTA board, you know, and these women are past state presidents that are in this mentorship program. We tell you who they are, you sign up for them, they will guide you on that path because they've all been through it. So it's an awesome mentorship program that we have in Texas.
It is.
I'm sure other states have it, but you know, of course, I'm plugging in my beautiful Lone Star state of Texas.
And that is perfectly fine, Claudia. I have been to many of your meetings, and you do your mentorship beautifully. And I must also say, it's funny traveling around this United States, you see certain states that hone in and do something that like they're known for. And I would also say that your state orientation is something that's known around the country. You just do it right. So I want to applaud Texas for your state orientation, because it is something to really be coveted and proud of. Now, oh, you are so welcome, Claudia. Now, before, Claudia and I were speaking about this topic, and I want to talk about this because I feel like this is so very important, and it's self-confidence. What Women's Council does for so many of our leaders is that we bring you into the fold and we help build you up. And maybe you're strong in this area, but weak in this area. And we're able to do this magic support where we help guide and assist or connect you with people that can help you. And so we want to talk about that, Claudia. We want to talk about in your life, for example, self-confidence. How did Women's Council help you with your self-confidence?
Well, I gotta admit that at first, my self-confidence was probably not the good kind. It was my way or the highway, and that's not right either. But I do come from a hard childhood. You know, I was blessed with two dads, okay, Stacey? I love my birth father. He was very, very hard. He was very physically, mentally, and verbally abusive. But that was his way of showing love, because he took care of us. But it was pretty bad. It was a tough childhood. So I grew up with that mentality that I was going to protect my mom. Nobody was going to do her wrong. Nobody was going to ever treat her bad again. Nobody was going to lay a finger on her. And the same went with me. Okay. So I was confident, but not in a positive way. And it was hurting me more than what it was helping me. Okay. When I started with Women's Council, you realize that maybe your self-esteem is a little low, or you realize that what you're doing is not right. And Women's Council does not relay the message of personal issues like this. You know, we don't concentrate on that. It's 100% business professionalism, leadership professionalism. But as I was mentioning to you earlier, Stacey, there's a lot of women out there, and gentlemen also, that have a very hard background, such as myself, and their self-esteem is very low, or they have zero confidence. And since they have zero confidence, they come across very differently to us, but we don't know this situation in them. And Women's Council, unknowingly, because of what we do, we build them back up again, or we break them out of a different kind of shell that they're under. And here we are, without knowing, building leaders, building self-confidence, like, for example, public speaking. You know, there's a lot of us that are very shy, introvert. Well, a lot of us are shy and introvert because of what we've come from, because of the background that we have, because we're not used to being allowed to speak out, because we're told that we don't know how to express ourselves, or, you know, we're always wrong with what we say. But Women's Council, with our public speaking classes that we have, they break us out of that. And they make us stronger, and they make us find our voice, and they make us they help us find our power within us. So Women's Council brings out the best in us. It helps us see where we maybe have to improve, where we have, it made me realize where I was coming across as too strong. But then right now, what happens with me is that I get passionate. But Women's Council just empowers, and in a positive positive, productive, successful professional manner.
And it does. And to your point, Claudia, we never know what someone is going through. And that's why we always use grace first. And I talk about this. Don't ever shame anyone if they've got to back out of a position, because we don't know what's happening. And if we just give them grace, once they handle that situation or they walk their way through it, they'll come back and visit us. But if we shame them and guilt them, they're going to leave and they'll probably not return, right? And so it's so important to have grace, because we never know what's someone is going through. And then also to your point about self-confidence, Claudia and I, we share a commonality, as my father was very abusive too. And I talked about that when I ran for national liaison, 2 years ago, right? And I was visiting your state and my speech was about that. And, you know, my dad, if I did give my opinion, I got beat for it if it wasn't his opinion. And so that's why I learned to be quiet and keep things to myself. And so little by little, Women's Council is peeling back that onion, and I'm getting better and better at public speaking. And it's so true, because it's just something that happened and we didn't, you know, it was just our circumstances, right? That's just how we grew up, right, Claudia?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah. But thank goodness for Women's Council. We're talking now, right?
Thank goodness for Women's Council. In all honesty, also, Stacey, my mother, she was silent. She was a little mouse. She took it all. But when she got out of there, my mother was a very strong lady, in her own way, without using loud voice. And she never, ever spoke ill about my dad. My mom never spoke bad about my dad after she left that relationship. And I learned from that too. You know, you do not, go there. You just let it be. And as she said, I knew that when you grew up, you would find out on your own. And the same goes for Women's Council. You eventually start learning. You eventually start helping yourself out. Others start helping you out, and just take it as constructive criticism. And of course, it all depends on the delivery. It all depends on the delivery. And that's where we're all learning how to be leaders. We're all learning how to be great leaders and help others out, just like we were helped out.
That's right. And Women's Council, for all your members that are out there, maybe your new members, it's really learning the servant leadership role. And I have to credit Women's Council for doing that, because I know that I did not have good leadership early on in my career. And when I arrived at Women's Council, that's when I really learned what servant leadership is. And it's really about helping others and lifting others as you climb, because our biggest job as leaders is always to replace ourselves, right, Claudia? You're always looking for who else you can bring into the fold, who you can lift up. And so we're just making the world a better place one by one. I just love that. Now, this is one of my favorite questions, Claudia. Were you born a leader?
I am going to say no, but here recently with, my Women's Council journey, when I did get installed as the Texas president, my mom told me, she says, Claudia, you're just like your dad. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, your dad did all this. He was the president of the truckers union. He was always out there advocating. He was always helping people. He was, like I said, my dad was a great man. He just had another side to him for other reasons be known to us. But she says, your dad was also the president of the truckers union back in 19 whatever. I didn't know this. I never knew that. So she says, you got it in you. You're a lot like your father. And that's why you're where you're at. It touched me and I had no idea.
See, other people, your mom saw in you something that you didn't even see in yourself. And that's another beautiful thing is that others will enlighten us and tell us things that we don't see in ourselves. And I love that your mom was the one, because I know that you and your mom are so very close. And so that's so beautiful that she was able to share that with you.
And then from my father, Gayton, who adopted me when I was 7,
Uh-huh.
From him, I learned my business skills.
Okay.
Since I was 7 years old, he got electrocuted. He worked for an electric company, and in those real big poles, he got electrocuted
Oh,
and he barely made it through. You could see where the electricity went in his hand and came out of this finger, almost touched his
wow.
heart. So he was disabled for quite a while, and he had to make ends meet. So he got his little truck, he filled it up with fruits and vegetables, and he parked on the corner and he started selling groceries. And there we lived in apartments. So my mom got the idea of, hey, let's sell groceries to our apartment people here. So my
Mm-hmm.
mom filled up a little red wagon of mine, and she filled it up with bags of tomato, bags of beans, bags of rice, bags of vegetables. And I went from door to door selling those groceries on the daily basis. But my mother and my father were the ones that taught me how to greet them. You know, Claudia, when they open the door, you say, good morning. Isn't it a beautiful day? Do you have your groceries for the day? How may I help you? And, you know, they taught me customer skills. You treat them right, you treat them with respect. And then they also taught me how to give out change. Okay, this is 50 cents, that's 4 quarters. So if they give you $1, it's 4 quarters. You give them, you know, if it's 50 cents, you give them back 2 quarters. 7 years old, going from door to door. But of course, times were different back then. But, you know, going from door to door, that's where I learned from my mom and my father, Gayton, you know, the business, how to treat people, um, uh, respect, how to sell a tomato, how to sell the groceries for the day. So I was blessed with very good parents as
Oh
well
my
too.
gosh, I love this story. Okay, Claudia, your mom and dad were both leaders and they taught you. That is a beautiful story. I love that. I love that you shared that, because so many of our life lessons are learned right in the home. And look at your mom, an entrepreneur. Let's sell into the apartment complex that we live in right here. And she was innovative and she came up with it and it worked for your family. I love this.
And from there, they moved on to a grocery store, a little grocery store.
Uh-huh.
And then they moved on to a bigger grocery store with a gas station. And then they got into restaurants. So my mom was the brain of the businesses. And my
Yes.
father, Gayton, he was the hard worker. He's the one that I lost in October, and I just miss him so much. But he was the hands-on, he was the hard worker.
Oh, that is so awesome. I just love that collaboration of your parents working together and figuring it out and navigating through life and teaching their children these life skills. They're both entrepreneurs.
Yes, they are.
That is a beautiful story.
Yes,
I love that.
thank
Now,
you.
I want to keep talking about this, but I know we
Yes,
have
I know.
some time, not much time left, but I do want to talk about your presidency as Texas state president. I mean, Texas is a big state. It's one of our big three. You've got, I believe, 22 networks. Talk about how many members you have and what this year of presidency has meant to you.
It's been a blessing, Miss Stacy. If
Okay.
I can make president for a state, anybody can reach that goal if you work hard at it. It is work, but that work is also education, and it's beneficial. And I always say it's a domino effect, because at the end of the day, I do get business from my Women's Council knowledge, from my Women's Council exposure. But we do have 22 networks. We're a little over 1,400 members. We're still growing strong. I
Mhm.
have 22 beautiful local network presidents that grew with me. We were together as president-elects last year. We teamed up, we collaborated, we just got together and we said, we're gonna make a great 2023. And these local presidents now, they've been phenomenal. They're the ones who make state. They're the ones who help us succeed, because they're the ones that are the boots on the ground. They're the
Yep.
ones that are dealing with our 1,400 members.
Mhm.
And we are there to support them and guide them and mentor them. and make them stronger than what they are. And some of them, you know, we go through leadership training with, and some of them help us. That's the beauty of Women's Council. We're not just sitting here developing leaders, because that's what we do, leaders made here. We also invite those that are current leaders in other areas to please join Women's Council and share your knowledge, your experience, your expertise with us. But it has been a learning experience, because I'm still learning every day. And it's been a total blessing. Again, if Claudia Gayton can be a state president, anybody can, when you have passion and love and a hardworking attitude. Not a title attitude. It's not about the crown. It's not about the title, because in a year, I'm out of here. Nobody's going to know Claudia in a year. But I do want people to remember me for being somebody that made a difference in somebody's life, somebody that cheered someone on, brought someone out of that shell. And I'm just learning for myself too, you know, after Women's Council, what's next?
Yes. So that brings me to my next question, Claudia. What is next?
I definitely am going to continue with my Texas Women's Council as a past president in any and every capacity that they need me. I still want to be on there, and I hope they still think about me. I don't know about going forward to national. I've always said no to every position, and I end up there. But I'm in it for the moment. I want to make sure my network does good this year with my 22 local networks, and I'm just concentrating on today.
Okay. Okay. Because I know a lot of people, they go on to NAR committees or their association or dive into RPAC or things like that. But I'm sure that you will find your niche and what is best for Claudia. But I do want to let you know that when I was just at your last Texas state meetings, you do make a difference, Claudia. I was so proud of you, the way you led that meeting and the election and all of the provisions that you just had, the changing in your standing rules. You were awesome. It's a big job. It's a big state, and you do make a difference. And I've sat on the sidelines, like I said, for probably about 6 years and watched your growth. And it is a beautiful thing. It's just like a butterfly. So hats off to you, Claudia, for doing such a good job.
I am currently serving as a director on our board of directors here at our local Greater El Paso Association of Realtors.
Awesome.
Because of Women's Council, I was tapped by somebody here at our local association, and I've served in many of the committees as a chair. I am currently a board member as a director, and I'm also on the Professional Standards Committee for Texas Realtors. And I did tell Mr. Kessler and Mr. Phipps, wonderful Mr. Phipps, I told him I'm ready after Women's Council to jump in a little bit more on the Texas level. But right now, I just want to concentrate 100% on Women's Council.
Sure. Absolutely. So now let's talk about major investor RPAC. It's a huge passion of mine, advocacy and speaking up for people that don't have a voice, for home ownership, and for our rights as realtors. Can you enlighten us a little about your involvement?
Yes, ma'am. I am a major investor. I think I've been a major investor for the last 4-5 years, maybe. Okay. I'm not sure. I started I was serving as a committee chair for Texas for the Greater El Paso Association, and a gentleman tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I would chair TreePack here locally. And again, I asked, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, you got to raise funds for TreePack here locally. And I was like, okay, of course, I'll take it on. And once I had accepted it and I went to my first meeting, I asked, how much is it that I need to raise? And they're like, oh, you need to raise about $70,000. $70,000. How can I do that? You know what? You have a team, you have a TreePack committee, you have a team, you rally up and you raise those funds. Very important funds for very important causes. Those causes are to support those legislatures that support and help us with our beliefs in home ownership rights, and of course, our own entrepreneur rights as realtors. Very important cause for TREPAC. And I wish more people knew about it and would contribute. The minimum would contribute. It would make a huge difference.
I agree with that 1,000%. And I have to say, you know what, that is another thing that Texas just does wonderful. I did serve with Nancy Garcia in 2019 as district vice president district vice president. There was 9 of us across the country. And I think last year, Nancy Garcia was the chair for your TREPAC. And I think the goal was 7 million, and they surpassed it to 9 million. I mean, it was just a record breaker in Texas. And I attended your Purple Solution benefit when I was just there. And I always bring back the information to Arizona, and I always tell them we need to do what Texas is doing because they are dialed in. So hats off to Texas, because they always come up with these great, clever, intuitive ideas to really, raise more funds for the PAC. So it's always interesting to see what you're doing down there in Texas. I love it.
Guess what?
What?
Miss Nancy Garcia is a past Texas state president.
Yay! It's a women's council member that did it, right, Claudia?
That's right. That's right. And I'm also Miss Deborah Sprangler. I mean, we've got a lot of women's council, local network presidents and state presidents that are serving at the Texas level in higher capacities. And it's all because of their leadership training and knowledge that they've obtained from Women's Council of Realtors.
It's all because of Women's Council, right?
Right.
I love that. Now, I do have one other question for you, and I love this question too, because it ties in with leadership. But what makes you cry as a leader?
As a leader?
Yep.
Oh God, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. I know.
What makes me cry as a leader?
As a leader, like what upset, or maybe what upsets you as
mad, like sad?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That you wish you could change.
Watching other women crush other women.
Okay. Yep.
It's true. It's there. Instead of helping build up women, you see other leaders sometimes not doing it, and it may be unintentionally, right? They probably don't understand. But if I see it, it breaks my heart. And depending on the situation, I will jump in and say something, because I don't like that. I think we all should be helping each other out and empowering, but we're imperfect humans, and some of us don't realize what we're doing. So when I see another person, another woman break down another lady, that makes me very sad.
Yes. We should be servant leaders and all empowering each other, right?
I know we're limited, but do you see my name badge? It's our Texas name badges that we carry, our officers. I created this, and it's a servant heart. Those are our name badges.
I love that. I do want to ask you about this, Claudia. Chris Lee said that I guess they did a survey. The number one reason why members join our Women's Council is because of referrals. Could we talk about referrals a little, about your business?
You have sent me referrals, Miss Stacey. I have closed a couple of deals. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It doesn't happen at the beginning, but it does happen. You do get referral business, and you're going to get even more referral business if you join Women's Council and you can travel with us to our state meetings, to our national meetings. You will get referral business. You carry your business card with a little trinket, a little giveaway. You start creating those awesome relationships. We do save those business cards that we collect from Utah, from Wyoming, because you meet women, from outside of your little shell, your little network. If you can travel with us and join us at our state meetings and at our national meetings, you are guaranteed to get referral business. And also by updating that profile when you join, the minute you join, you update your personal profile, please put a picture, because
Yes.
people will tend to skip you if you don't have a picture, but the referral business will start coming in from Women's Council. And I
Yes.
have received referral business from other areas, in Texas and outside of Texas. It's great. It's great
Yes,
if you
fill
know
out
how
that
to work.
radius profile, like Claudia said, put your picture in there, put up your bio in there, put your buyer seller needs, put your new listings, put anything you need if someone's moving across the country, because you will, like Claudia said, it doesn't always happen at first and you have to keep on going. And then all of a sudden the referrals just start coming. So don't get discouraged, but it will come. And there's other systems too that you can use, like an email referral that just goes out to other agents that you meet at conferences or state meetings, and you collect all those and you put them into that email base. So you're touching them monthly, liking everyone on Facebook and connecting with them. Maybe you build a business referral page on Facebook. So there's all different kinds of systems, but if you work it, it will happen. And we do have a question here. Let me see. Shania Ragsdale asked, how do you multitask all of your different positions and titles, plus run your business, plus take care of your friends and family?
So I have a little bit of a different situation than most. I'm not married.
Okay.
I don't have children. I do a lot of my work at night. And you got to learn how to set your calendar. You got to learn how to say no to certain things that you can't do. I have overbooked myself a couple of times, and it's embarrassing to have to cancel. But first you book your family and your calendar, then you book your business and your calendar, and then you put your volunteer Women's Council or Texas Realtors or any other organization that you belong to. You put those in your calendar. So you set them up by priority. But I do have a little more time in the day because, I do, like, I help my mom out. I make sure I check on her daily. I try to help out in other areas as much as I can with my family, but you got to learn how to schedule yourself, and you need to learn how to say no to certain things. Be realistic. Be realistic, because where you're trying to be good, you might end up failing. And that also isn't a good feeling within yourself. So be realistic with your calendar and your time and your priorities.
Great advice. Great advice. We went a little over, but it was so awesome speaking to you, Claudia, getting to know more about you, tapping in to the Texas State President. And thank you just for sharing you today with all of us here on Facebook Live. Claudia, we just cannot thank you enough for everything that you do for the Women's Council, and especially Texas being one of the big 3 states. I know it's a big undertaking, and we just thank you. And is there any closing statement you would like to end with today, Claudia?
I just want to say, be patient with each other, be compassionate, and communication is the key, and respect. Communication and respect. You get those two, you'll be successful at any level that you're at as you're going in your journey.
Yes. And don't forget to lift as you climb. Our biggest job as leaders is always to replace ourselves. So always be looking for that next leader that you can pull in and bring into the fold and help, and always be servant leaders. I cannot thank you enough for being on Sip with Stacey today, Claudia, and I want you to have a wonderful day. Thank you, members and friends.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.